Welcome to Resistance Live. Since 2017, Resistance Live has been the go-to home for political and legal news and analysis through a decidedly progressive activist lens. I'm your host, Elizabeth Cronise McLaughlin. I'm a former Wall Street and human rights lawyer, a lifelong organizer, and a leadership and impact consultant for all those seeking to lead big progressive change in these incredibly challenging times. To get bonus broadcasts, ask questions, and more, don't forget to become a paid subscriber to the show at patreon.com/resistancelive. And to learn more about what we do to help progressive leaders everywhere, check out GaiaLeadershipProject.com. And now, here's today's show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's the 19th of December, 2025. So today is the Epstein Files release day, and we have some breaking news within the last hour of what we're actually going to get today. We are actually getting documents. I know many of you are shocked by this. I've been battling the doomsayers all morning on Blue Sky while I've been getting ready for the broadcast. Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General of the United States, took to Fox News this morning and announced that we will be getting several 100,000 documents today out of the Epstein files. Now, there is a little bit of reporting this morning. I have not been able to figure out the sourcing for this yet, that they may seek to roll production, which is, of course, not compliant with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Essentially, the Epstein Files Transparency Act says 30 days. That's today. They've got to produce everything. Anything that they redact, they have to itemize and give a legal explanation for. And they are not allowed to redact things on the basis of potential impact to professional or public reputation. They are not allowed to redact things on the basis of them being arbitrarily classified. There are many things that have been, at this point, shunted as possibilities for what they can in fact disclose, thanks to the explicit terms of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So sometime today, we're getting several 100,000 documents. Now, again, there is some reporting again that I haven't been able to source that they may roll production, meaning that today may be the first one and we may get more after that. But I have not been able to figure out where that is coming from. So my expectation, based on what Blanche said this morning on Fox News, is that they're going to give us several 100,000 documents today. Now, I have to remind everybody, they are allowed to redact victim information, victim photographs, victim medical records, okay? And there have been people on Blue Sky. Today is a bad day on Blue Sky, by the way, you guys. Like, if you want to keep your mood elevated, I don't recommend going on there because it's just full of people spouting nonsense. You know, there's a lot of like, they're going to just pretend that all the men are victims. No, they're not. They can't do that legally. They're not allowed to do that. It would instantly result in a court challenge. It's not going to happen, okay? So we have, at this point, you know, no indication that there's nonsense. I'm not going to say they're not going to try some bullshit because we know who these people are. But at the same time, there will be a production today. And so the question now is what's going to be in that production. Again, I will remind you, because I think it's really important to do this. And, you know, I have to say this from the standpoint of how short our memories are because of the ways in which media and social media are manipulated in this era. Okay. 30 days ago was when the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed the Congress and the Senate by a virtually unanimous vote. Only Clay Higgins voted against it. It was signed into law the following day by Donald Trump. Okay. That 5 days before that, John Thune said that there was no way he would even bring the bill to the floor of the Senate. And it was only because Adelita Grijalva had been sworn in that we got the discharge petition that allowed it to be brought to the floor of the House. I just have to remind everyone, because again, memories are short, that the reason why we're even here is because of tremendous public pressure and the public actions of his victims to get this act passed. It's a huge win. It was an overwhelming win. And it came on the heels, by the way, because everybody's forgotten about this already too, of overwhelmingly positive election results literally just last month. Now, one of the things that I want people to just be reminded of here is that because they are not allowed to redact anything on the basis of whether it may impact a politician, a public figure, or a foreign dignitary, there will be in these files information, references, potentially photographs, and other damning information concerning names that we already know. The other thing that is required, by the way, for those who may have forgotten this, is that 15 days from the date of release, the DOJ has to provide a list to Congress of the names of all the people who are public figures, politicians, foreign dignitaries, otherwise like celebrities and such, to the Congress for publication. Okay, so we're going to know who's in the files. That's something very significant that I think a lot of people are forgetting. Also, for everybody who, by the way, is even in these comments, I'm annoyed with you guys today, I'm sorry, saying that I don't think anything related to Trump is going to be released. I have a little bit of news that may have flown under the radar for you all yesterday, which is that there was breaking news from a local newspaper. This is probably why it didn't get nationwide coverage, that the GOP had distributed secret talking points on the Hill to GOP congresspeople and senators about how to respond to Trump's presence in the Epstein files. And again, those talking points are predictable. Deflect, talk about Bill Clinton, refer to the Democrats that are in the files, don't acknowledge that Donald Trump is in them. But why would they be releasing those talking points if the files were not going to reference Donald Trump? Okay. And I'm just going to say one other thing here. We had another photo dump yesterday from House Oversight. Again, a lot of people are not paying attention to the fact that this is a wildly moving Overton window right now of public awareness. For additional photographs that had been produced from the Epstein estate to House Oversight were released yesterday. If you missed them, let me give you a brief but revolting summary. Okay. They include photographs of close-ups of a teenage girl with quotes from the book Lolita written across her feet, her spine, her neck, and her chest. They include photographs of Jeffrey Epstein being massaged by two teenage girls while another teenage girl kneels between his legs. They contain photographs of Epstein with David Brooks, the New York Times opinion piece writer, with Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google. They include, and that, by the way, that was an event that was also attended by Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They contain photographs of passports and Visa cards that Epstein had seized from these young women so that they could not leave the country and in some instances could not flee Epstein Island. Okay. The public information continues to grow. And I just want everyone to understand that no matter what the DOJ does, and again, we are getting documents today. Today, we're getting several 100,000 pages of documents. No matter what they do, this issue is not going away. And you are doing, I just have to say this because I'm mad about it, you are doing a deep disservice to these poor girls, these 1,000+ girls who are now grown women who were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein when you claim without any evidence that nothing will happen, okay? Things have already happened. They are continuing to happen daily. These men are being tarred and feathered, shamed, brought to public account. The details of their crimes are becoming known. Their associations with one of the world's most notorious sex traffickers are being disclosed for public view. And we are seeing the depth of the absolute corruption of this elite class of men who were in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein. It's incredibly important. Like, I want everybody to understand this. It's incredibly important for the sake of these victims that you do not doomsay today, okay? Because they deserve better. And this story will not be over no matter what the DOJ does, okay? And I know I get really upset about this kind of shit because I'm a victim of child sexual assault myself who took my molester to court, okay? Like, I get very wound up about this stuff. Those girls deserve our support, our hope, our willingness to fight for them, and our belief that justice will come. And it is incredibly damaging to the public view of this, to the people who follow you, to just the general mood of the nation, to be out there claiming that nothing will happen, or we will never see this, or Donald Trump's name will not be revealed. Okay. Like, I'm really tired of it. Okay, we have had an enormous string of victories in the last 8 weeks. This is one of the things that is driving me nuts. And I know we are all being adversely influenced. Okay, I know that. I know that social media, especially if you all are still on meta platforms, you are being fed a constant loop of doomsaying. And that is intentional. It is designed to make you feel isolated, depressed, hopeless, and powerless. Okay, this moment right now, like where we are, where we have been for the last 8 weeks since the November special elections, is a turning point. Every single day, I've been saying this on the broadcast over and over and over again, every single day, there is another sign that the base is crumbling. Let me give you another one. Yesterday, Ben Shapiro gave a speech at Turning Point USA's conference, okay? And in this speech, Ben Shapiro, no angel, let me say this, right? Like, despise him. I have, no shortage of ill will toward Ben Shapiro. Took the stage and tore Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes to shreds. Called them grifters, called them con artists, described all the ways in which Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes' collaborative interview was shameful. Okay, and was contributing to the perception that the far right was packed with conspiracy theory nut jobs, which of course it is. But the point is here, okay, that they are destroying themselves from within, and they are also being destroyed from without. And if we take the tact of reinforcing the idea that that is not the case, okay, if we deny the overwhelming evidence that MAGA is crumbling, we are helping to prop them up. And I mean that full stop. Like, I am on the verge of blocking anybody who shows up on my social media feeds with any kind of doomerist bullshit, because you are doing the work of the regime for it when you do that, right? Like, one thing that we desperately need to do, like, yes, today, yes, on behalf of Epstein's victims, but also going forward and heading into next year, is to take the wins and actually see what they line up and add up to over time. Okay, because there is a mountain and a growing mountain of evidence that MAGA is done. And yes, that means they're cornered animals. Yes, that means they're going to get more violent. Yes, it means that immigration raids are going to, turn into a total shit show, and still are, and will be more extreme. Yes, it means that sometimes they still will win small victories. We're going to talk about Judge Dugan's conviction in a minute. But does it mean that they're they're getting a 1,000-year Reich? Hell no. And, it is just so, again, Mariam Kaba, I know I quote her here all the time, but hope is a discipline. And one thing that is sorely lacking right now in people running around on social media in our side of the fence is an actual commitment to hope. I'm going to tell you one other quick story and then we'll get back to this. Yesterday, I spent an hour on the phone with a 22-year-old activist in Pennsylvania. And I'm not going to tell you where he's located. I'm not going to tell you what he's working on. But this is a kid who, I got to tell you, it was like meeting a young AOC. It was like, witnessing something that was really special, because this is a kid who is committed in the deepest possible way, down into his bones, to changing where we are. And he's got his hands in 6 different fires right now, irons in 6 different fires right now. He has a plan and a roadmap for where he's taking his organizing, which is not small, over the next 5 to 10 years. He's exploring whether or not to run for office. And you cannot be connected to someone like that young man. You can't be in the presence of someone doing that kind of work and feel hopeless, because he's just one. And there, by the way, just so you're aware, there's hundreds of thousands of others like him doing that work right now in every single town in America. He's not from a big town. He's not from New York City. He's going to change the world. And, I just want everybody to seriously cut the nonsense, because the vast majority of the people who watch this show and the vast majority of the people who are out there in their own communities want a different future. And most of us right now, at least here, are working for that. And all hope is not lost, quite far from it. about Epstein or anything else. All right. So it is a minute, like a really important minute to check yourself on that stuff, to recognize that, like social media and media wants you feeling like it's over. They want you feeling hopeless. They want you to believe that nothing can touch Trump, right? Because they profit off of it. And the regime wants you thinking that because it is policing yourself so they don't have to do it. So really critical, and by the way, you want another marker of a win? Here we go. I'm going to give you a big one. It was 6 months ago only, that Pam Bondi claimed the Epstein files did not even exist. And here we are. Today, we're getting several 100,000 pages of material from the Epstein files maintained by the DOJ and the FBI. That's a huge win. Like, I really don't want anybody to neglect it. Like, we did that. Public pressure did that. The victims did that. So, again, really critical right now to check your mindset on how you're approaching all of this stuff. All right. And we will see what we get. I'm just going to mention for everybody who's here today, I am doing a bonus broadcast for our Patreon subscribers today at 3:00. If we have documents by then, y'all know I'm pretty quick on the draw on this, but 300,000 is a lot. The largest paper discovery I ever handled when I was litigating was about 750,000 pages. The largest electronic discovery I ever handled, which was in a case against Countrywide arising out of the mortgage crisis, was probably like 1.1 million. 300,000 pages is a lot, but they're required to produce it in a searchable format. And if we know some things, by the time we go on the air at 3:00, my Patreon subscribers will be the first to know. So you should go join us if you would care to, at patreon.com/resistancelive. You can join now for 20% off annual subscriptions. And by the way, even if you're not a Patreon subscriber, I'm just going to put a plug in here. If I've helped you at all this year, you can kick me some holiday cheer at the Venmo or the Cash App below. It would help. I'm here every day working through this. And I literally had a moment today where I was walking up my stairs to my office thinking about the drop that we knew was coming from the Epstein files and going oh, well, I guess I'm going to be working the whole weekend before Christmas because, I'm not going to be able to pull myself away. And I also want you guys to be informed. All right. Other things that we need to talk about today. So there were a couple of questions on the Patreon feed about the plaques at the White House. And I'm going to tell you guys, I don't think this isn't a big one to worry about. Somebody was really in crisis about this morning on the Patreon feed. And I have to tell you, if you look at this through the lens of malignant narcissism, if you look at it through the lens of this pathetic, failing, demented old man, you can't do anything but laugh, right? How desperate are you for attention that you will write what are essentially trolling tweets, have them engraved on a metal plaque and smacked up underneath presidential portraits? It's so sick. It's so sick and sad. It's so sick and sad. And I'm not, the next president who will hopefully be AOC. By the way, AOC, you guys, if you missed this was a little bit of fun. You want some joy for today? Here you go. There was a poll run yesterday. There was a poll run yesterday that showed AOC, a mock-up of AOC and JD Vance running against each other in 2028, that had AOC wiping the floor with JD Vance in the polling, by 14 or 15 points, something insane. She jokingly reposted it. I don't even know if she's planning to run, who knows? But nonetheless, you have to understand that there is a moment coming after this. We don't know when exactly it's going to be, but if you've ever done any repairs on your own home or your own apartment, you can take down a plaque, reskim the wall and paint it over. Okay. I know we're all upset about the East Wing. Don't get me started. I'm with you on that. But this is an old demented man putting stuff up to make himself feel better because he didn't get love when he was a kid. We really don't need to lose our shit over this. All right. It's a joke. He's a joke. You can laugh at it. It's okay. It's not actually a sign of anything that we don't already know. Okay. Same thing is true, by the way, for the Kennedy Center. Now, I know people have absolutely lost their shit about this. And there is a scandal about this, which is that before they took this vote, which they claimed was unanimous, to rename the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center, they actually muted. It's so sick. And so this is the biggest metaphor of the week. Okay. They muted the one black congresswoman who sits on the board of the Kennedy Center so that her vote would not be counted because her vote was no. All right. But even beyond that, there's something that hasn't been reported in a lot of the mainstream media about this thing because people seem to think it's just a done deal. All right. The Kennedy Center is statutorily named. That means that it was named by an act of Congress that went through the House, the Senate, and was signed by the president at the time. Okay. The board of trustees of the Kennedy Center cannot override that law. They're not allowed to rename it. And so all of this is like, we're renaming the Gulf of Mexico. We're renaming the Department of Defense. Like, it's all just like puffery to prop up this demented narcissist in the White House. And it is petty and it is stupid. And it is exactly what it looks like. They are fluffing him, like literally. Not literally. I mean, that has like that term has an additional meaning that I'm not going to talk about on the air. But like, that's what they're doing. They're puffing his ego because he is dying, because there's something wrong with him that we don't know about, because he's getting injections in his hand for God knows what, because he's being whisked off to Walter Reed for MRIs with like crazy reports coming out afterwards that make no sense, because he's falling asleep in every single Oval Office meeting after having given a screaming speech where he appeared to be on amphetamines or cocaine. Like, of all the things to get upset about in this era, right? Like we talked yesterday about Congress passing the act that would completely remove gender affirming care for trans kids from any hospital in the nation. All right. We talked about that. That's something to get upset about. But this bullshit, like we're going to rename the Kennedy Center, even though we have no legal authority to do it. We're going to stick up plaques under these presidents' names that say all sorts of horrible things that have already been said on social media by this demented president. Those are not things to get upset about. That's just like classic narcissism. And, you know, at this point, it's really important that we like pick our battles and we decide what to get upset about. All right. This is not one of them. Okay. We have to talk about Judge Dugan's conviction. I was shocked by this. I'll just be really honest. I was really surprised. I was convinced she was going to win this one. She was convicted late last night of felony obstruction. Now, one thing to remember about this is, of course, criminal defendants have a right of appeal. And one of the things that's going to happen in this case is that there will be a demand for what's called de novo review. All right. So what that means is that there is going to be a demand by the defendant's counsel, by Judge Dugan's counsel, when this goes up on appeal, to have all the evidence in the case reviewed anew. Okay. They're going to challenge whether or not the evidence supports the conviction. And they may actually win that, because one of the things that many legal observers noted, myself included, was that they actually had no evidence that she had obstructed ICE. In fact, she had delivered the person who she was allegedly secreting into a hallway where everybody knew that ICE was located, and he was eventually picked up. So the idea that she was found guilty of a felony for obstructing ICE makes no sense. Okay, now, something else that I just want to kind of like ameliorate here. Yes, obstruction of, government officials can carry a jail sentence of up to 5 years. But this is a judge who had witnesses in her own defense that included other circuit judges and the former mayor of former mayor of Milwaukee. And she will have an incredible bench of character witnesses at her sentencing. Okay. I would not be surprised if this carries no jail sentence at all. All right. And so one of the things that I want people to just be mindful of here is that it is a terrible result. And also the story on this isn't over yet. And I personally think that it sets a terrible precedent. I would say it's 50-50 whether it survives on appeal, but I don't think she's going to do prison time. And, nonetheless, Todd Blanche was also out on Truth Social last night ranting about this. They're very pleased that they've managed to put a judge in jail for simply trying to control her own courtroom and stop ICE from shackling people who were waiting for their immigration hearings. We really need to kind of keep in mind that the story isn't over on this one yet. And again, the result is bad. She was found not guilty of misdemeanor interference and found guilty of felony obstruction, which also makes no sense. That kind of tells me that there may have been some bartering on the jury where, they landed on the felony, but not the conviction on the misdemeanor for reasons that seemed kind of odd. Maybe they were somewhere in the middle and this is how they reached a resolution. It's weird. So in any event, we will see what the outcome of that is. All right. I've spent some time on this broadcast already talking about this, but there was somebody on the Patreon feed this morning that said, I'm having a hard time beating back the nothing ever happens energy. And I ranted about that already today, but I'm just going to say this. If you are struggling with that, it's a very good moment to make a list. This actually really works. Like, I know that you may think that this is like a stupid, silly thing to do, but you should make a list of all the wins that we have had. Let's just say going back to the election in November, because I'm going to tell you right now, like, that list is long. There have been an enormous number of victories. There is an enormous number of wins that we are forgetting, as I have said already today. Okay. I worry about the mindset sometimes of folks in this audience, because I know a lot of you are like perpetually online. And if you are not constantly doing the thing of fighting back the mindset and fundamentally the propaganda that nothing ever happens, everybody's getting away with it, everything that they do works, because by the way, it doesn't. This is the other thing I just have to say to you all. Like, I want everybody to remember that they are signing executive orders routinely now that have no force of law and that are never put into effect. And the only purpose of them is to terrify people. Literally, that's all they're doing. And they're doing it because they know they're losing. They're doing it because they want people to be afraid of what they're going to do next. A lot of the things that they are signaling out there are not even coming to pass. Okay. And so it's critically important that you keep a note of what's actually working, right? The wins that we are actually having, that the Epstein files are actually being released today. Maybe not all of them, but 300,000 pages, several 100,000 pages is a lot. And that's a win. Like, that's a very big win. So, I want everybody to be mindful about this. And yes, Jess Craven's list is awesome also. She does this list every week of the wins of the week. Really important, okay? Because we will fall prey to propaganda. Everybody is subject to it. We're swimming in it day in and day out right now in the United States. You have to work this, okay? And you have to understand that, like, what's happening with the Epstein files is a prime example of this. Like, again, it was just the first week in July that Bondi was claiming these files didn't exist. And now here we are, getting several 100,000 documents today through a trajectory of people who would not stop and on an issue that will not go away, no matter what he tries to do. It's huge. All right. So again, reminder, there will be a bonus broadcast this afternoon for our Patreon subscribers. If the Epstein files have dropped by then, I will talk about them. If there is a need for a bonus broadcast on the basis of the Epstein files, I will find a time this weekend to go live. There is also going to be a broadcast next Monday off schedule because of the holiday, and next Tuesday. The remainder of the week, we will be gone unless there is like an emergency need. Okay. So to the extent that you guys want to know what's in the files, you all know how I do this, right? Like, I'm going to go head first into those documents as soon as they hit the wires. And I will be searching them for Steve Bannon, because he's my favorite target in all this because of all the insane global bullshit that he and Jeffrey Epstein got up to together. Like, by the way, he's in the photographs that were released last night also, the second batch. I guess it's the third batch now out of House Oversight. I will be looking to see what other names pop up. And you can rest assured that, they're going to be releasing photographs. They announced this today. Whoever's in those photographs, we'll be talking about as well. So, we're going to be doing all of that today and maybe over the weekend, depending on what we get. All right. So buckle up. Hundreds of thousands of pages coming at us at some point today. Oh, people did ask me if there was a specific time deadline. The answer to that is no. They can drop those documents up to 11:59 p.m. tonight, as long as it's today. That's it. So, all right, you guys, if you like what you see here, please consider becoming a subscriber over at patreon.com/resistancelive. Again, we are running a promo until the 31st of the year. You can join us for 20% off using the code FALL2025. Also, if you have liked what I have done here this year, if it has mattered to you in any way, please send me some holiday cheer. And the benefit of doing it through Cash App and Venmo is I get 100% of it. YouTube takes a cut of anything you give me here. Just heads up. It's not a small cut. So to the extent that you want to, support the work, direct is better, and so are Patreon subscriptions. But I see all of you tipping me in the comments also, and I appreciate that as well. All right, you guys, I will see you all back here on Monday at the absolute latest. Patreon subscribers, I will see you today at 3 o'clock. And if there's a need for an emergency bonus broadcast that's public, I will be doing that as well. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your week. Please subscribe, like this channel. If you're listening on a podcast, give us a 5-star review. Drop me a comment if you would care to. It's always helpful to say something more than replay if you want the algorithm to circulate the video. Tell me what you like about what we're doing here. That's a really good way to make sure that we get amped up a little bit, and share this broadcast wherever you can. All right, everybody, I'll see you guys soon. Bye. That's our show for today, folks. Thanks so much for being here at Resistance Live. To get more out of the show, including bonus broadcasts, the answers to all your most pressing political and legal questions, and way more, head on over to patreon.com/resistancelive and become a paid subscriber. And don't forget to hit subscribe here on your favorite podcasting platform to make sure that you never miss an episode. See you next time.